Alright, so new iteration of the JP tier list and now adding 5 new characters. And yeah, so if you want to take a look first at the tier list before I add them, real recap, I didn't move anyone. It really just... I was thinking actually of moving down both Red Merlin and Green Gustav, and the reason for it is because the game is changing. The game is moving from doing a bunch of damage, so freeze has lost a little bit of use. Like Guild Boss changed that you can't freeze the boss, and the most recent super boss was not damage based, it was how fast you beat it based. So, you know, it's just... if the game moves on from doing like less activities that require you to do a bunch of damage, I will have to lower them just because it's the natural thing. I rank units with how useful and good they are. And if a unit becomes less useful, they're gonna have to be bumped down. But even still, that also goes for Jericho. If the game moves from doing less and less damage, or needing less and less damage, she's gonna have to be bumped down as well. But that doesn't apply to Darieri, because Darieri doesn't need supports to do extra damage like Jericho does. She just does damage, like doesn't care, so you know, she's safe. But yeah, Jericho, Merlin, and Gustav, if the game keeps progressing into like not wanting you to do a bunch of damage at once, they might have to be lowered. But other than that, it's fine. The rankings are fine for this month. The game hasn't changed much for the past month, and you know, can't blame the devs. They probably are having issues working right now. But yeah, so ranking the new characters. First of all, Roxy. If you don't know Roxy, you should, because she is probably the highest character in the game after Lilia. And new original character, she has like some of the sickest animations in the game, but unfortunately she's pretty bad. Her card gives Explode, which is pretty bad, and removes but it's just not very good. It's just not very good. I'm giving her the same tier as Mono. Now the reason for that is because she can do a lot of damage. The reason for that is because she has 75% pierce. Like legitimately, if Roxy gets a unit with good cards, it will be a good unit. Because she has 75% pierce, she has very low crit damage and crit resistance, but crit chance, I mean, but it doesn't matter. 75 pierce is just so good. She has decent attack stat, and just overall, she can be a very good unit if she gets a good unit with good cards. But this unit doesn't have good cards, so unfortunately, have to give her the C tier. It's kind of the same thing as Mono. Doesn't Mono have good stats as well, or am I tripping? I think she does. She does have good crit chance, I'm pretty sure. Mono has 10% pierce, that's actually pretty bad. She has 80% crit chance. Yeah, Mono is not going to be as good as Roxy, if Roxy gets a good unit with good cards compared to Mono if she gets one. But yeah, Roxy, the one that we have, not very good. So I give her the B tier. Fraudrin. So, Fraudrin is pretty much like Blue Elizabeth. She has almost the same passive. Blue Elizabeth's passive is that when she dies, she gives all the allies 2 ult cage, but she also heals them and takes off their debuffs, right? Fraudrin is up giving just 2 ult cage. He fills her ult cage. So if you need 5 or 4, it doesn't matter. You will fill the ult cage and also removes the debuffs, but doesn't heal them. Now, they work very similarly in that case. But Fraudrin is just better. Not because he gives full ult cage. You can work around getting full ult cage of Elizabeth. If you go second, you use ult food, use Merlin, Green Merlin in the back, you know, you're gonna work around those things. You're gonna have 3 ult cage turn 1, so you're gonna, you know, doesn't matter, right? I mean, it kind of matters if you don't have to work around all these stuffs, you know. But regardless, you can work around that. But with him, the thing is that he has this card right here, which at level 2 gives him taunt. So if you bring a Gopher and turn 1 you rank him up and you use taunt, the enemies will not be able to attack single target. And AoE either, because they're gonna end up killing him. So it is a better Blue Elizabeth. It's not good per se, because there's so many ways of working around that. He's not gonna be good, but he's better than Elizabeth. So I have to put him a tier above Elizabeth, so I'm giving him the A tier. He has utility. Not only he's good for Training Cave, I've been using him on Training Cave, He is usable for specific activities that require farming with ults. So, you know, he is gonna be alright. But yeah, he is like Elizabeth, but better. And that's why I'm giving him the extra tier above her. But nothing crazy either. A tier is just, you know, they're usable. A tier units are just usable. They're pretty okay. Or, you know, if they're specific for a certain activity, like Red Elizabeth, you know, you get what I mean, right? But it's yeah. Now moving on to the new green Zaratras. And he is just, you know, he is nothing crazy. He's just nothing crazy. 5% PR is not very good. But his cards are cards that already exist to other units, like Charge and then Shatter AoE. He is made for the DN Super Boss, which I don't like units that are made for specific activities, because this is pretty much what happens, right? Actually, I'm lying. Blue Elizabeth, Blue Lilia was made for Go for Super Boss, and she ends up being God tier unit. But, you know, in general, units that are made for specific activities, they're not going to be good in the general play of the game, and that's what happens with Zaratras. He is really good for the DN Super Boss, but that's pretty much it. When hero uses skill and critical, he does not cure the enemies, increases damage, skills damage by the amount of crit rate. The reason for this is because you can't crit on that activity. The reason why he has this passive is because in that activity you physically cannot crit. I stacked Jericho like 15 of the thing, so she had like extra 150% chance and she didn't crit. So, you know, you can't crit an activity, so every time he doesn't crit, he still doesn't increase damage by the crit chance, which is 70%. So, in regular play, he is going to be critting because he has 70% crit chance, but he has very low crit damage. So, he's not all that. He's not very good. He's pretty mid, if you ask me. So I'm giving him also the A tier with Fraudrin. He's pretty mid, doesn't deserve the S tier, so I'm giving him the A tier for now. But yeah, now talk about a unit that actually has some hype, please. Zeldris. Zeldris, I can make a 40-minute video explaining how I feel about Zeldris, but I'll keep it short. Zeldris is insanely good when he wants to be, and insanely bad when he wants to be. Here's the thing, his cards are very crit based. Now, yes, Lost Vein Meliodas, he's also crit based, but he doesn't need to crit. Like, the thing is, I like to compare these two units, I really do, because they have they're very similar in a way. Lost Vein Meliodas, his cards don't require him to crit, but he ends up being a crit-based unit because he has 70% crit chance and 170 crit damage. Zeldris is kind of similar, but he has less crit chance and less crit damage. Very similar because he has Spike, which increases double the crit damage, right? So this actually, on his card, becomes a 280, right? And also, his passive is that once he loses an ult cage, he gets 30% crit damage up to 90%. So this card actually has extra 180% crit damage if you have his full passive, plus it's 280, right? So it's a lot of crit damage, and you can work around his passive by just moving cards and you'll be fine. Zeldris is a crit based unit, and if he doesn't crit, he doesn't do damage. That's the issue. And you say, oh, but he has good crit chance, 60% is pretty good. Yeah, have you seen my videos using him? He doesn't crit, man. I swear to God, mine, I bought full costumes because it's Zeldris. So I bought full costumes, right? And my Zeldris has based 72% crit. Still doesn't crit, man. He still doesn't crit, and he needs to crit. If he doesn't crit, he doesn't do damage. The difference is huge. A level 1 card, let's say, he will do 12,000 damage on a level 1 card, a single target. If he crits, he does like 70,000. It's very big, if you have full passive, I mean. The difference is very big. So, he's stupidly good when he wants to be. And he's a very PvP based unit. You can use him on PvE and he will be fine. But his commandment is really annoying for the other units on PvE. Like on PvP, removing debuff is poggers, right? That's how wild I'll go for that. I will call it poggers. Because if someone petrifies you, someone attacks you, doesn't matter, just move a card. And you're gonna lose the effect. On PvE though, not as important, and just moving cards to getting ultimate is just so big on PvE. I mean, it's still big on PvP, you get what I mean, but on his team, you're not using a ult-based team, so it doesn't matter. On PvE, if you want to get ults, he's not gonna let you, because if you combine cards, you're just gonna lose the ult gauges and stuff, so it's just, he's very backhanded for PvE because of that, and he doesn't have much utility. But yeah, oh, his second card is AoE and he heals. If he crits, he heals. Again, if he crits. But yeah, if he crits all 3 enemies, he heals quite a lot, and he has a lot of lifesteal. Mine, with full costumes, has 22% lifesteal. And also the star system as well helps, right? But yeah, Zeldris is really good, but he's very inconsistent. So, I cannot give him the God tier, because he's very inconsistent. So I will give him the SS tier. He's very inconsistent. But when he decides to be good, he's better than Lost Millions. I'm going there. If you do a level 3 card with him and he crits with full passive, he one-shots any unit in the game. So really good. But when he wants to be. And a lot of characters that you face in PvP have good crit resistance, like Gopher, but a lot of them have 0% and he still doesn't crit, so you know. He has that issue. Now Glockx is very recent. Glockx released 2 days ago. And, you know, I did play with him quite a lot because I wanted to push this video out before it was too late. Glockx released 2 days ago, and he is a very similar unit. He's kind of a mixture of Gopher and King cards-wise, sort of, not really. But yeah, his healing card is actually very good. If you saw me playing with him on PvP, he heals way more than I thought he did. Like a level 2 card sometimes would fully heal me. So his healing is very good. And level 3, he gives immunity to allies, which is really good. If you have Gopher in your team, ranking him up, that's pretty good. And then the second card disables rank 2 and 3 skills. Now this is a card that can really help you face Lost Vein Millions, because when you crit him, he will be getting those rank 2 and 3s, right? So if you attack him and he has like level 1s and you crit him with this card and you see the level 2s and 3s, he loses the ability to use those cards. Now the big issue is if the enemy is using Zeldris, just move a card and you lose the effect. And the other issue is if someone using King or any cleanser, you're just gonna cleanse the effect. On PvP, he is probably a very good unit. I mean, he is a good unit. I tested him, I used him a lot. He is a really good unit. But if you're facing someone that's very competent and they're using things that will counter him, he loses a lot of his prestige. He loses a lot of his goodies, is what I mean. So, Glockx is pretty good, but he is not any insanity. His passive is alright. When the heroes cards are ranked up, he gets an extra ult gauge. Unfortunately, it does not work with Gopher because if Gopher's rank up doesn't work with the passive, so it has to be by combining cards, and it's unlucky that that's a thing because if it did work with Gopher, he would be 10 times better. Like that's how much it would change. But yeah, if you combine his cards, he will get extra ult gauge, which can be helpful a lot of times. But I was really thinking of giving him the SS tier, and because on PvE this card doesn't work. This card just doesn't work on PvE, right? And on PvP, they can just cleanse it. Like, they can just cleanse it. For now, okay, I will have to give him the S tier until further notice. It's just the lack of usability. He is a good unit with lack of usability. For recent events, right? Zeldris, Lost Vein melee, PvP, he's not going to be able to be really used. If you face someone using Lost Vein melee, yeah, you can see his level 2 and 3s, but they can just take it off. The debuffs are not that big of a deal nowadays. They can just take it off, especially if they're using Zeldris, a lot of people are. And then on PvE, bosses in general are not going to be debuffed by his card, so you're really just using a healer, you might as well just use King. So it's just, or Lilia, right? Different kinds of healers right there. So he loses a lot of his usability, but he's really good. Next time, if they release activities that he will be exceptionally good for, he might get bumped, right? So I'm just gonna leave it here. The rankings on the actual tier doesn't matter. It's just all over the place. But for now, I'll have to give it there. I'll have to keep him there. But again, next time we evaluate, maybe he'll be bumped. We just need activities that he will be good for. Again, the reason why I wanted to bump down Merlin and Gustav. We're lacking activities that they're good for, except Red Demon, which nowadays on GP, you're better off doing, you know, Hell, which you can't even use them. That's pretty much it for now. Nothing much changed with the other units, like I said, but these two. We'll see. Next tier list, they might already be moved. I checked, I pop in the tier list and sometimes change stuff as I feel according, but yeah. So, until the next one.